fellow booktubers, my name is Laura and you're watching Dreams Books Courage, and today I'm going to be doing a book discussion over The Mime Order by Samantha Shannon. For those of you who do not know, The Mime Order is actually the sequel to The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. So if you have not read The Bone Season yet, you probably should not be watching this video. For a brief synopsis on The Bone Season, it's all about a girl named Paige, and she lives in this society where people who can contact the spirit world are known as unnaturals, and if the government catches any unnaturals, then they send them to prison, even though they can't really help the way that they are, they're just born that way. And it's just a really cool fantasy world. I have not read anything like this, and I just really love the premise of it. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, definitely go and pick this book up. I don't want to tell you anymore because I feel like it's better if you just go into this without knowing very much about the environment. But if you have not yet read this book or The Mime Order, then definitely do not watch the rest of this video. Okay, so now let's move on to The Mime Order by Samantha Shannon. At the end of The Bone Season, we see that Paige has finally been rescued along with some other fugitives, and so she's riding in this train and we have no idea what's going to happen next, and it just kind of ends there on that cliffhanger. Personally, I felt like this book was a 180 from The Bone Season because for one, it actually takes place inside London and we're dealing with a completely different group of people. We're actually dealing with humans within this book. Paige seems a bit less strong in this book than she did in the first one, just because obviously she's been through a whole lot and she's just trying to recover from all of that. I'm really glad that we actually saw what was happening inside London in this novel. But it felt like it was kind of a repeat of the first novel and that there was a lot of world building. Maybe that's just Samantha Shannon's style and she likes a lot of details within her book. Personally, I don't mind it, but I feel like a lot of people would. We learn a lot more about the Seven Dials, and I think that's really awesome. But we also see how corrupt Jackson is, and just how corrupt the Syndicate is in general, although of course the Syndicate is corrupt. But within the Syndicate, it's like half are on one side and half are on the other, and it's just very confusing at a lot of times, and there are a lot of twists and turns. But really, I felt like the plot was a bit lacking in this book. It had a lot of details and things happened, but for me, it just didn't seem that intense. And within this book, I was also reminded at how annoying and rebellious Paige can be at times. It's like, don't do this, Paige, and then of course she does it. I felt like the first 100 pages weren't really that exciting to me, but after that it kind of picks up whenever the Refame kind of get involved again. But I think really what I was waiting for was Warden to come back, because I mean, who does not love Warden? Yes, he's kind of a corrupt character too, but I would say he's probably the least corrupt character within this book. And to me, the relationship between Warden and Paige reminds me of Beauty and the Beast a lot of times. Like how whenever Paige actually jumps into Warden's dreamscape, she sees that there's actually a flower in the middle of it now and it's covered by glass. Like, that just seemed to me like an obvious reference to Beauty and the Beast, which I don't mind at all because I love Beauty and the Beast. I was just wondering if that was supposed to be like that. I'm very intrigued to see what happens with Paige and Warden's relationship, because really at the end of the first book, they didn't really have anything. Like, they kissed, but it wasn't really anything. There was no meaning really behind it. But within the second book, you really see that they want a relationship, but again, they can't really have one. I really like the character of Alfred in this book, like probably because he just loves books so much. Personally, I think that I would be a bibliomancer if I was a type of clairvoyant, and I just really liked his character because he was just so nice to Paige. And even just being nice to someone is such a big difference from how everyone really treats people in the Syndicate. Whenever the climax of the story happened, it was just so intense to me. Like, the rest of the novel wasn't that intense, but at the climax it was very intense and I really enjoyed it. And I was just so happy and I felt a sense of triumph for Paige. But I knew since there were like 20 pages left of the book that some cliffhanger had to happen to just throw me off. And of course it did happen whenever Jackson decided to join up with the government. I don't know what was happening with that, but I'm definitely going to have to read the third book to figure out what is happening. I was just like, why does this have to happen? Why does this cliffhanger have to be there? But of course it did. And of course it makes me want the third book in my hands right now. One of my favorite quotes from this book is, "Words give wings even to those who have been stamped upon, broken beyond all hope of repair." And even though that was spoken by Jackson, I thought that it was definitely a very powerful thing to say, especially as someone who loves books as much as I do. And another one of my favorites was, "But if I could choose anyone on earth, it would still be you, Paige Mahoney." And that was so sweet. Obviously that was from Warden. I had a lot of favorite quotes from this book, so I'll just go ahead and read you the other two as well. "But fear and understanding were kindred things. Both involve the loss of the familiar and the terrible danger of knowledge. And the last one is hope is the lifeblood of revolution. Without it, we're nothing but ash waiting for the wind to take us. As I said before, the first 100 pages or so weren't very intense. They were just a bunch of details and world building to me, but I felt like the climax more than made up for that in the intensity factor and the cliffhanger. So overall, I ended up giving this book 5 out of 5 stars. I just really enjoyed it. I love how big this universe is and how Samantha Shannon just continues to expand upon it, and I'm really excited for where Warden and Paige's relationship is heading, and I'm really terrified of what Jackson is doing with the government. Overall, I just really loved reading this. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I would love to know down below all of your thoughts on the Mime Order. To me, the Mime Order was a bit weaker than the Bone Season, but of course I still liked both of them. And I just can't wait to get the third book into my hands, like right now. As always, I'm gonna go get back to reading.